Holy crap, Ethan. If you're looking for a death wish, don't drag me down with you. Chubbs whispered, his voice trembling as his legs practically turned to jelly. Getting on Maya Vance's bad side is worse than getting expelled. He stole a glance at Maya, and sure enough, the school's reigning Ice Queen looked like she was about to explode. Her face was pale with fury, her eyes icy enough to freeze the humid June air. But to Principal Henderson, who was standing right there rubbing the back of his head, Chubbs's terrified expression was the smoking gun. It practically confirmed that the person who had just accidentally beamed him with a Coke bottle was Maya. Ethan Miller, playing the part of the concerned citizen, stepped in. Sir, I'm sure Maya didn't mean it. She was probably just trying to aim for the trash can, and, well, her aim was a little off today. I'll apologize on her behalf. You aren't going to hold a grudge against an honor student, right? Maya shot Ethan a look that could kill. Surprisingly, though, she didn't argue. She actually took the fall for him. Ethan wondered for a second if she'd suddenly grown a conscience, or if she was repenting for calling him a loser earlier that morning. As expected, the lecture Ethan had anticipated never came. Henderson looked at Maya, his annoyance evaporating instantly. He actually forced a smile. Oh, it was just an accident? No worries, Maya. It's just a plastic bottle. Didn't hurt a bit. By the way, how are your SAT prep scores looking? They're good, sir. I'm sorry about that, Maya replied stiffly. Don't give it another thought. Good luck with the rest of finals tomorrow. What a devoted educator, Ethan thought sarcastically. He knew damn well that if he had been the one to admit hitting the principal, Henderson would have had him in detention until graduation. It wasn't just Maya's straight as, it was her parents. Her dad was the captain of detectives at the precinct, and her mom was a high-ranking official at City Hall. The moment the principal vanished around the corner, Chubbs didn't waste a heartbeat. I have a thing at home. See ya. He bolted, his sneakers squeaking against the linoleum as he vanished. Ethan was left alone with Maya. He felt a twinge of guilt. So, good luck with the exams. Got ya later. He turned to run. You think it's that easy? Maya's voice was a low growl. Not a chance. She took off after him. Her speed was terrifying, like a greyhound off the leash. Ethan realized with a sinking feeling that his reborn body was out of shape. He couldn't even outrun Chubbs, let alone in varsity track star. Up ahead, Chubbs shouted back, Don't follow me, Ethan. Go the other way. Don't bring her over here. Some best friend you are, Ethan cursed. He veered toward the small practice field, but Maya moved like a panther. She cleared a flower bed in a single leap and tackled him hard, sending them both tumbling onto the grass. Great. I'm being pinned down by the most popular girl in school, Ethan thought as Maya sat firmly on his lower back, pinning his arms and twisting his ear. Keep running. Why'd you stop? Maya hissed. I didn't realize you had in you, Ethan. Snitching on me? No, wait, framing me. You made me take the hit for you. Now, what are you going to do to make it up to me? Ethan struggled, but she was surprisingly strong. Maya, get off. People are watching. So, let them watch. They're going to think, that there's something going on between us. I don't care, she snapped. Well, I do. You're going to ruin my reputation. I'll never find a girlfriend. Are you going to take responsibility? Are you going to marry me and have my kids? Because if so, they're taking my last name. Maya let out a cold, sharp laugh. You wish, Miller. By now, a crowd of students was gathering, whispering and pointing. Is that Maya Vance? What's going on? Who's the guy she's sitting on? Probably some creep who tried a line on her. Looks like the varsity queen is teaching him a lesson. Man, why does he get to have her sitting on him? I'd take that hit any day. Careful what you wish for. You'd end up in the ER. Ethan felt his face burning. He was nearly 6 feet tall, and here he was getting pinned and bullied by a girl in front of the whole school. It was humiliating. He started to panic. What if this crazy girl actually punched him into a coma? He'd just reincarnated. He was supposed to prevent his family's tragedy, not end up as a cautionary tale in the school newspaper. He couldn't just give up. Pleading for mercy wouldn't work on a girl like Maya. He needed a distraction. A big one. Ethan strained his neck to look her in the eye. He softened his expression, channeling every bit of tortured soul energy he could muster. Fine, Maya, he said, his voice dropping to a soulful, melancholic whisper. I'll tell you the truth. I've been in love with you for a long time. Will you be my girlfriend? Maya froze, her eyes wide with shock. The next second, she reached down, grabbed a handful of skin at his waist, and twisted with everything she had. Gah! Ethan let out a blood-curdling scream. That was not how it was supposed to go. He thought she'd get flustered and run away blushing. Instead, she'd opted for physical torture. It hurt worse than when his mom used to pinch him for failing math. Ethan Miller, you were such a prick, Maya spat, standing up and brushing off her jeans. You just got rejected by Tiffany Sterling the day before yesterday, and now you're in love with me? You think I'm your backup plan? If you ever say that again, I'll knock your teeth out. She turned on her heel, her ponytail swaying as she marched away with her long, athletic strides. Ethan groaned, rolling over and lifting his shirt. The skin was already turning a nasty shade of purple. Ethan, Ethan, you okay? Chubbs reappeared like a ghost, crouching down to check the damage. He winced. Ouch. Just a pinch, though. I thought she was actually going to kill you. Get lost, man. You ran faster than a dog at the track. Some brother you are. Hey, I'm a lover, not a fighter. If I stayed, we both would have died. This way, at least I'm alive to buy your casket. Shut up. Just shut up. Whatever you say, Romeo. The two of them started walking toward the school gates. Suddenly, a high-pitched, overly sweet voice called out from behind them. Ethan. Two girls were walking up. One was dressed a bit too mature for her age, wearing a trendy outfit that highlighted her curves. The other was plain and walked a step behind. As Ethan looked at the pretty one, a flood of bitter, buried memories surged to the surface. Tiffany Sterling. She was one of the elite six, the six girls voted most beautiful at Oak Ridge High. But beauty was a spectrum. Maya Vance was the undisputed ceiling, a natural beauty who didn't even try. Tiffany, on the other hand, was the floor of that list. Her look was carefully curated. Hours of makeup, trendy clothes from a mall, and a practiced, delicate persona. In his past life, Ethan had been completely fooled by the act. He'd spent 3 years as her loyal dog, doing her homework, buying her lunch, and following her around like a shadow. Just a day before the final exams, he had poured his heart out to her. She'd rejected him, of course. But Tiffany was a pond manager. She never gave a hard no. She kept her fish on the hook, giving them just enough hope to keep them swimming in circles. Ethan hadn't realized he was just one of many in her aquarium. After his family went bankrupt and his life fell apart, she hadn't just rejected him. She'd flushed him out of the pond without a second thought. Seeing her now felt like looking at a ghost. Ethan, how were the exams today? You look exhausted, Tiffany said, her voice like honey. She casually swung her pink backpack toward him, expecting him to catch it. To her, allowing Ethan to carry her bag was a royal decree. Letting him pay for dinner was a privilege he should be grateful for. Let's go grab something to eat. That new sushi place opened up on South Street. I heard it's the best in the city. Thud. Ethan didn't move. The pink backpack hit the pavement with a dull, heavy sound. Tiffany's brow furrowed. What are you doing? Why didn't you catch it? Ethan looked her dead in the eye. Didn't you reject me? Tiffany blinked, stunned for a few seconds before her face twisted into a pout. Ethan, don't be so childish. I told you we're still young. We should wait until college to see where things go. And haven't I been nice enough to you? I came over here specifically to let you take me to dinner as a peace offering. What more do you want? It was the classic player playbook. She made it sound like she was doing him a favor by letting him spend $50 on raw fish. Unbelievable, Ethan thought. I actually fell for this for 3 years. He looked at her perfectly applied lip gloss and suddenly grinned. What I want, Tiffany, is for us to stop talking. Forever. I'm clearly not in your league. He draped an arm over Chubbs' shoulder. Let's go, man. As they walked away, Tiffany stomped her foot, her face turning red. What is his problem? How can he be so rude? After everything I've done for him? I think he's just embarrassed because everyone knows you turn him down, her friend Chloe whispered. He doesn't mean it. He'll be back in a few days, begging for your attention like always. It's not the first time he's had a tantrum. Tiffany huffed, smoothing her hair. You're right. He's just being dramatic. On the other side of the parking lot, Chubbs looked at Ethan in awe. Dude, you were right not to take her to that sushi place. My cousin went there. It's like $40 a person. That's a week's worth of gas money. In 1999, the economy was different. A gallon of gas was $1.20. Rent for a decent apartment was $500. The house Ethan's parents owned would be worth millions in 20 years, but right now, it was just a house. $100 in 1999 felt like $1,000 in the future. Ethan's family was doing well. His dad was a manager, so he had a decent allowance, but he wasn't about to waste on a girl who saw him as an ATM. Sushi? Please, Ethan scoffed. She's dreaming. You serious, Ethan? You're really over her? For real this time? Chubbs asked. Do I look like I'm joking? I just don't buy it. You've been obsessed with her since freshman year. Ethan gripped Chubbs' shoulder. Listen to me. If I ever go back to being Tiffany Sterling's lapdog, you have my permission to shoot me. Chubbs grinned. A lapdog? Yeah, that actually fits you pretty well. Shut up. Go home and study for tomorrow. I've got things to do. Ethan hopped on the city bus, his mind racing as he retraced the route to his old home. The 1999 buses didn't have GPS or digital displays. They were hot, crowded, and smelled like old vinyl and exhaust. Nobody was looking at a smartphone. Those were a decade away. People were just staring out the windows, trapped like sardines in a tin can. Finally, the driver yelled out, Greenwood Estates? Next stop, Greenwood. Ethan shoved his way through the crowd, accidentally stepping on a few toes, and practically tumbled off the bus. Standing across from the entrance to the housing complex, he felt a lump form in his throat. In his previous life, he'd sold this place the moment he graduated college, fleeing the city and the memories attached to it. It had been 20 years since he'd stood here. It looked exactly the same. Building 7, apartment 301. His heart hammered against his ribs as he knocked on the door. He was terrified that he'd wake up, that this was all a dream, that a stranger would answer the door. The door swung open. A woman stood there, her hair tied back, wearing a floral apron. She was real. She was breathing. Ethan's jaw trembled. He couldn't speak. "Ethan, you're home. How was the exam? Was it hard?" The voice, gentle, familiar, and lost for so long, broke him. He lunged forward and threw his arms around her. "Mom." He didn't want to cry, but the tears came anyway. His mother, Elena Miller, was a nurse at the local hospital. She'd taken time off to look after him during finals week. Seeing her son come home and collapse into tears on the second day of exams sent a jolt of panic through her. Elena's heart sank. She knew her son. If he was crying like this, it wasn't just a bad grade. "Ethan, did you get caught cheating?" Elena was a natural beauty. Even in her early 40s, she looked a decade younger, but she was fierce. When she was angry, she was scarier than Ethan's father. Ethan froze, wiping his face. "What? No." Elena looked skeptical. "Then why are you howling like a wounded dog?" "Oh, wait, did that girl reject you again?" Ethan's eyes went wide. "How do you know about that?" Elena chuckled, pulling back to look at him. "Someone told me." "Damn it, I knew it. Chubbs told his mom, and she told you." Chubbs' mom was also a nurse at the hospital. The two women were best friends. "Actually, it wasn't Mrs. Moore," Elena said. "It was your counselor, Mr. Harris. Honey, look, romance is a two-way street. If she's not into you, don't be so stubborn. You'll find someone eventually. Besides, you're just a kid. You haven't even grown into your ears yet. If a woman laid down in front of you, you wouldn't even know what to do with her." Ethan stared at her, horrified. Did my mom just say that? Nurses really were built different. Crying over a girl during finals week. "Honestly, Ethan, do you have any sense of priority? I'm telling you now, your father said if you don't even get into the state college, he's not paying for trade school. You'll be hauling bricks at his construction sites." Ethan immediately straightened up. "Mom, that whole confession thing was just a joke. I didn't mean it. I was crying because I noticed you have crow's feet. I realized my mom is getting old, and I haven't even done anything to make you proud yet." Elena immediately pushed him away and ran to the hallway mirror. "Crow's feet? Where? Oh, you little brat." Seeing his mom obsessing over her reflection made Ethan's heart feel light. He had spent so many nights trying to remember the exact curve of her smile, and here she was, vibrant and alive. "Tell me the truth, how was the test?" Elena asked, returning to the kitchen. "So easy. Speak English, Ethan." It was a breeze. "I think I might actually get into a top-tier school." "Keep dreaming. Go wash your hands. Dinner's ready." Ethan's requirements for life were simple now. He didn't need a Harvard degree. He just wanted his family intact. He checked his watch. "Where's Dad?" The thought of his father, David Miller, made his stomach turn. In his head, he called him the old dog. He didn't deserve the title of father. Elena rolled her eyes. "He's working late at the office. They're finishing up a big project, Ethan. Don't be mad at him." Ethan's expression darkened. Working late at the office, or working the secretary in a hotel room. He decided to find out tonight. If he could trigger the scandal early, expose the affair before the police raid, maybe he could prevent the chain of events that led to his father's accidental death and his mother's subsequent breakdown. After dinner, Ethan made an excuse about needing a walk to clear his head for tomorrow's exams. He left the apartment at 6:30 p.m. It was too early for a rendezvous, so he walked slowly through the old neighborhood, soaking in the sights. He ran into several elderly neighbors who, in his memory, had been gone for nearly 2 decades. "Hey, Ethan, out for a walk. How'd the SATs go?" "Not bad, Mr. Thompson. Don't lie to me. Your mom said your grades were trash, and you'd be lucky to get into community college. Better start practicing with a shovel." Ethan ignored the old man. People in this neighborhood loved to talk. He hailed a taxi and gave the address of the regional headquarters for Eastern Construction. His father was the head of administration there. Elena said he was working late, but Ethan didn't believe it. He planned to check the office first. But as the taxi pulled up, he saw his father, David, walking out of the main gate carrying a small gym bag. He really was at the office? Ethan frowned. Is he heading home now? He felt a moment of relief, thinking he'd wasted his time. But then he noticed something off. David didn't head for his car. He started walking down the street toward a different block. Ethan followed at a distance. He watched his father turn a corner and walk straight into the lobby of the Crimson Inn. "You old dog," Ethan whispered, his blood boiling. Even with the world starting over, his father couldn't resist the same cheap motel where everything had gone wrong in the first timeline. Ethan's hatred surged, and for a second, he wanted to turn around and let the man die. But he thought of Elena. He walked into the lobby a few minutes later. David was nowhere to be seen, but the elevator display showed it was heading to the 8th floor. What now? Ethan walked up to the front desk. In 1999, hotels didn't have sophisticated computer systems or key card tracking, but they still had guest registries. A young woman in her 20s was manning the desk. "Hey, can you help me out? My dad's staying here, but I forgot which room he's in." The receptionist looked at him, surprised. "What did you call me?" "Right? Hey lady is too formal. Excuse me is too generic. Sorry, I meant, miss? You look like you'd know. My dad's kind of forgetful." She smiled. "I like miss, but I'm not supposed to give out guest information." "He's my dad, though," Ethan pleaded, leaning on the counter. "I'm taking my finals tomorrow, and he accidentally took my ID and my lucky pen in his bag. If I don't get them, I'm screwed." "He took your ID? That's rough. What's his name?" "David Miller." She flipped through the ledger for a minute. "I don't see a David Miller checking in today." Ethan's heart skipped. Did he use a fake name? Then he remembered the woman. Try Brenda Reed. That was the name of the woman involved in the scandal. The receptionist's finger stopped. "Room 801. Wait, Brenda Reed? Is that your mom?" Ethan shook his head. "No, she's my aunt." "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. If I get into Yale, I'll come back and give you a tour." He bolted for the elevator before she could ask why his dad was sharing a room with his aunt. He hit the button for the 8th floor, his heart racing. The elevator doors opened, and he stepped into the hallway, scanning the doors. 801 was at the far end. Suddenly, the door to 802, directly across the hall, swung open. Ethan instinctively looked over and froze. Standing in the doorway was the last person he expected to see. Maya Vance. The varsity queen stared at him, her eyes widening from shock to suspicion. Before he could say a word, she reached out, grabbed his ear, and yanked him into room 802, slamming the door shut. "Ow, Maya, let go. I'm going to hit back if you don't stop." She shoved him against the wall, her face inches from his. "I should be asking what you're doing here. Did that rejection from Tiffany finally break your brain? Are you stalking me now?" Ethan's mind was a mess. Why was she here? He looked around the room. It was a standard double, but the desk was covered in textbooks, highlighters, and practice tests. A small lamp was the only light source. She'd been studying. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Do I owe you a report on my life?" she snapped. Then it clicked. During finals week, some students whose homes were too loud or lived too far away would rent a cheap motel room to focus. It was a common tactic for overachievers. Maya patted his cheek mockingly. "You've got guts, I'll give you that. Stalking me to a hotel? I used to think you were just a loser, Ethan, but now I think you're actually a creep." Ethan's eyes flared. "A creep? Watch your mouth, Vance. You've been Tiffany's puppy for 3 years. If that's not creepy and loser behavior, I don't know what is." Okay, fine, I was an idiot. But I'm done with her. We're over. Like I care. Why are you in this hallway?" "I wasn't following you. You pulled me in here. I'm looking for my dad." Maya stared at him for 3 seconds, then scoffed. "You're looking for your dad in my room? You want to call me mom now?" Ethan pointed at the door. "My dad is in 801. This time, Maya was silent for a full 7 seconds. She replayed the last few minutes in her head and realized he was telling the truth. Her face flushed a deep crimson, and she immediately started shoving him toward the door. Go find your dad in 801 and leave me alone." She pushed him out into the hall. "And remember, you didn't see me here. We never talked." Before she could close the door to 801 opened. David Miller stepped out, and when he saw his son standing in the hallway with a disheveled-looking Maya Vance, he froze in absolute shock. "Ethan? What? How?" David's eyes darted between his son and Maya. Maya was stunning, and even in her casual study clothes, she had an aura of class. David's first thought was that his son's taste in women had improved drastically. His second thought was panic. Didn't Ethan just get rejected a few days ago? Had he moved this fast? And more importantly, they had the biggest exam of their lives tomorrow. Why were they at a motel? "What are you doing here?" Ethan interrupted, his voice sharp. "Mom said you were at the office, but you're at a motel?" The door to 801 was still slightly ajar. Ethan shoved past his father and burst into the room. He was looking for Brenda Reed, expecting to find her in a bathrobe or tucked under the covers. David let out a shout of surprise and tried to grab him. "Ethan, get out of there." Ethan stopped dead in the middle of the room. There were 4 people inside. They were sitting around a small table covered in green felt, littered with chips and cards. Ethan blinked. Where was Brenda? There were 4 men in the room, and not a woman in sight. He recognized 2 of them, Joe Dawson, a project manager at Eastern Construction, and Steve Benson, the head engineer. He didn't know the other 2. The man he knew best was Joe Dawson. In the previous timeline, after the scandal destroyed his family, Joe had been one of the few people to help Ethan, even giving him a severance package from the company. Even though David's death had been ruled an accident during a police raid, Joe had treated Ethan with kindness. "Is that little Ethan?" Joe laughed, holding a hand of cards. I was just telling your dad he should be home, making sure you're studying, where your mom's gonna have his head. David looked at Ethan and forced a sheepish smile. We were just finishing up some business, and well, one thing led to another. But we're done now. I'm taking my boy home. See you guys later. Take it easy, Dave. David led Ethan out of the room and pulled the door shut. He saw Maya still standing in the doorway of 802, her bright eyes fixed on Ethan. David felt awkward. He assumed his son had brought this girl here for a pre-exam stress reliever, and felt he had to say something. Ethan, aren't you going to introduce me? Is she a classmate? Ethan sighed. Yeah, this is Maya. David frowned. Maya? I thought her name was Tiffany. Maya let out a cold snort. Mr. Miller, I'm not Tiffany. My name is Maya Vance, and I want to make it very clear that Ethan and I are just classmates. Nothing else. Please don't get the wrong idea. Oh, I see. My mistake. Well, that's fine. You two should focus on the exams tomorrow. Other things can wait. But you're young, and sometimes you don't think about the consequences. If you do, well, just make sure you use protection. Maya's face went from red to white in an instant. That won't be necessary. She slammed her door shut. David swallowed hard, looking embarrassed. Did I say something wrong? Ethan turned and started walking toward the stairs. David hurried after him. Hey, wait up. You're the one who got caught. Why are you acting like you're the one in trouble? Explain yourself. Why were you at a motel with the Vance girl? Did you come here straight after school? Ethan stopped and turned on him. You should be worried about yourself. You lied to Mom about working late so you could gamble in a motel room. And here I thought you were having an affair. What? You little brat. What do you know about affairs? I don't care who you're seeing, just don't hurt Mom. If you do, I'm done with you. Ethan glared at his father with a look so cold and filled with genuine hatred that David actually flinched. It was the accumulated rage of 20 years. David looked shaken. Then his expression turned serious. Ethan, what is wrong with you? That look, it's like you actually think I'm some kind of monster. I'm telling you the truth. Two of those guys there are executives from the corporate office. They're here on official business. They love poker, so we had to host them. You think I'd rather be here than home with your mother? What about Brenda Reed? Ethan asked, dropping the name like a bomb. David blinked. Brenda? What does she have to do with anything? She's a clerk in the accounting department. She's not high enough to be in a meeting with executives. Aren't you your boss? Maybe she was hosting you. Are you trying to pick a fight? Is this about me telling your mom you were at a motel? Ethan looked him in the eye. I was at the office earlier. I heard people talking. They said you and Brenda are a thing. Is it true? David nearly jumped out of his skin. Which one of those lying bastards said that? Ethan, I swear to God, I have nothing going on with Brenda Reed. She's as thin as a rail and has a personality like wet cardboard. Your mother is 10 times the woman she is. I'd have to be blind and stupid to cheat on her. You want to swear on that? You want me to swear? David looked at his son and saw a gravity he'd never seen before. He realized that this wasn't just a teen being rebellious. It was something that could break their family. Fina, I swear, if I ever have an affair with Brenda Reed, may my son fail all his exams and never get into college. Screw you. Language. But look, I'm serious. I wouldn't joke about your future. If you don't like that one, how about this? If I ever cheat on your mother, may I be struck by lightning and may my next son be born without a... Well, you get the point. Happy. Ethan watched David's eyes. He looked for the flinch, the micro-expression of a liar. But there was nothing. David looked genuinely offended by the accusation. And that oath. It was oddly specific for a man who took his family's future so seriously. Was the scandal from my past life a setup? Was he framed? The thought sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He had spent 20 years hating a dead man, even scattering his ashes in a fit of rage. If his father had been innocent. David patted his shoulder. Ethan, don't let this get to you. If you're really worried, we can go back to the office right now and find out who's spreading those rumors. We can't have this affecting your head before the big test tomorrow. Ethan rubbed his temples, trying to clear his head. The rumors in the bathroom story had been a total bluff, so he couldn't actually go back and point anyone out. He shook his head. Forget it. I don't really believe them anyway. I just wanted to warn you. I don't want to see this family fall apart. Just don't mention those rumors to your mother. Please. I'm not an idiot. Good. Now, tell me about that girl. Maya? She's a knockout. Nothing to tell. Back at home, Ethan locked himself in his room, ostensibly to study, but his mind was racing through every detail of his father's death in the original timeline. He had been at a PC bang when Chubbs' mom found him. She told him his dad had been caught in a vice raid at a motel. David had supposedly tried to escape through a window and fell. By the time Ethan saw him, he was on a slab in the morgue. Everything Ethan knew was secondhand information. But Brenda Reed had confessed. She claimed David had pressured her using his position at the company. There were DNA tests, witness statements. It had been an open and shut case. However, if it was a conspiracy, Brenda would have been the key witness to flip. Ethan barely slept that night. Did the universe send me back just to clear his name? He wondered. Why just vanish once I fix it? If I can prove he's not a scumbag, that would be the best gift I could ever get. The weight he had carried for 20 years felt slightly lighter, but the uncertainty was agonizing. He didn't fall asleep until the early hours of the morning. He forgot to set his alarm. He was jolted awake by Elena storming into the room and ripping the blankets off him. Ethan, get up. Do you want to miss the final day of exams? Ethan groaned, rolling over with a small smile. Being yelled at by his mother was a luxury he hadn't realized he missed so much. What time is it? 6:30. Mom, the test isn't until 9. Let me sleep. He was immediately treated to a morning special, a sharp pinch to the arm and a twist of the ear. You don't need a review? You don't need to study? Your cousin got into a top engineering school, and look at you. If you were half as smart as him, I wouldn't have to worry. Ethan muttered under his breath. His cousin had ended up being a corporate mid-manager who only got his nice house by marrying into money. Ethan wasn't worried about the final exam. English. In his previous life, Ethan had worked for a tech giant and lived in the U.S. For 2 years. He'd spent his nights reading technical manuals and his days arguing with American developers. His English was probably better than the teachers at this point. At 8:30 a.m., Ethan stood at the school gates. As if by some cruel twist of fate, he saw Tiffany Sterling walking toward him. He ignored her completely, waved to the security guard, and kept walking. Tiffany stopped, visibly confused. She had prepared herself for Ethan to come crawling back today. She'd even worn her best outfit, thinking she'd forgive him once he apologized enough. In her collection of fish, Ethan was a prize catch, handsome, tall, and incredibly devoted. She couldn't let him just swim away. Ethan, she called out, her voice hitting that high, needy register. Ethan didn't look back. He sped up. Tiffany had to jog to catch up, her heels clicking on the pavement. People were starting to stare, including Maya, who had just walked out from the path near the gym. Maya watched the scene with an amused smirk. Annoyed, Ethan stopped and turned around. Tiffany almost ran into him. He held up a finger, pressing it against her forehead to keep her at a distance. Is there a problem? He asked, his voice flat. Tiffany was stung. Ethan had never looked at her like that, with total indifference. He had always been her golden retriever, always warm, always there to buy her a latte or carry her bags. He'd spend his weekends taking her to movies and walking her home, even if it meant he had to take 3 buses back to his own house. But now, he looked like he didn't even know her. Ethan, stop being like this, she said, her eyes welling up with practiced tears. I brought you something. I know you love the breakfast sandwiches from that bakery downtown, so I went and got you one. She held out a paper bag, looking like a kicked puppy. It was a masterclass in manipulation. If Ethan hadn't lived through 20 years of her nonsense, he would have folded instantly. In the past, whenever he got mad at her for flirting with other guys, she'd bring him a snack and give him a delicate explanation, and he'd end up apologizing to her. He was such an idiot back then. He gave her a small, cold smile. No thanks. I already ate. And just so you know, I don't like those sandwiches anymore. Maya, standing by a nearby planter, let out a small chuckle. The idiot finally grew a spine, she thought. But Tiffany couldn't handle the rejection. Ethan, what do I have to do to make things like they were? Ethan actually laughed. Tiffany, you rejected me. We're done. You go your way, I go mine. We're just classmates now. Is that simple enough? No, I won't let you do this. Is the world supposed to revolve around you? Ethan thought. He wasn't her pet. Tell you what, if you kiss me right here in front of everyone, I'll think about it. Kiss you? Here. Tiffany's face went pale. She was a player. She needed to keep her options open. If she kissed Ethan in front of the whole school, her entire fish pond would be poisoned. Every other guy she was stringing along would jump ship. Ethan, let's not. As she struggled to find an excuse, a tall guy walked up and pointed a finger at Ethan's chest. Miller, have you no shame? Tiffany already said no to you. Are you deaf? Or, but just stupid? Leave her alone. The newcomer was Logan, another one of Tiffany's fish. He was decent looking and athletic, and with Ethan out of the picture, he figured he was next in line for the throne. Tiffany, don't worry. I've got your back, Logan said, stepping between them. Ethan looked at Logan and felt a wave of pity. What a tool. He shrugged. Actually, Logan, you're just in time. See that bag Tiffany's holding? She said she bought that sandwich specifically for you because you're the only guy who matters. You're right. She and I are ancient history. I'm out. Logan's eyes lit up. Wait, really? Tiffany, you remember I love these? And you dumped Miller for me? I knew it. I promise I'll always be here for you. We're going to be the best couple in school. Tiffany's jaw tightened. Logan was a rank 7 fish at best, mostly used for carrying heavy things or making other guys jealous. The idea of being his bride made her want to gag. Ethan added one last barb. Logan, I've got one more thing for you. What's that? I hope you two are very happy together. Send me an invite to the wedding. Maya, watching from the sidelines, finally lost it and burst out laughing. Ethan turned and saw her. Stalking people's conversations isn't very ladylike, Maya. He walked over, his eyes scanning her. She really was in a league of her own. Today she wore a simple sundress that cinched at the waist, showing off a figure that Tiffany could only dream of. I'm not stalking. I'm standing in a public space, Maya countered, though she couldn't hide her curiosity. Are you really done with her? Why? You want to jump in and take her place? In your dreams, Miller. Heh. Well, after you dragged a guy into a motel room last night. Maya's hand moved like a flash, covering his mouth. Her eyes were full of murderous intent. If you say another word, I will end you, her gaze screamed. Maya, let go. Your hand is cold. Ethan muffled, breaking free and starting to run. Maya was hot on his heels, sprinting like she was a track meet. Tiffany watched them go, a ball of frustration knotting in her chest. Is he actually over me? Is he going after Maya Vance now? Impossible. She'd never look at him. He's just acting out. He's probably just trying to make me jealous with Logan. She turned to Logan, who was happily munching on the sandwich. Logan, Ethan was just joking. I'm not really hungry, and I have to focus on the exam. I'll talk to you later, okay? Good luck. Even as she brushed him off, she gave him a sweet smile that kept him hooked. The player's skills were second nature. Soon, the bell rang. The English exam was 2 hours, listening, reading, and writing. For Ethan, it was like a college professor taking a third-grade spelling bee. He breezed through it in 40 minutes, checked his work once, and then put his head down and nap. He was still exhausted from the night before. Ethan, wake up. Are you okay? The proctor tapped his desk. Ethan looked up, bleary-eyed. Is it over? Can I leave? Not yet, but Ryan. The final bell of high school echoed through the halls. The exams were over. The class of '99 was finished. Oak Ridge High erupted. Within minutes, hallways were filled with cheering students, and shredded notebooks began falling like snow from the upper balconies. Ethan stood in the courtyard, looking up at the paper-filled sky. He was still here in the past. He didn't know how much he could change, but his first goal was to save his mother. It was time to find out the truth about Brenda Reed. Ethan, Chubbs ran over, his face red with excitement. A bunch of people are comparing answers by the gym. You coming? Compare answers? Ethan laughed. The ship has sailed, man. Who cares if I got question 42 wrong? It's over. Chubbs nodded. True. We have to do the preliminary score estimates tomorrow anyway. Might as well go home and sleep. Right, the estimates. In 1999, you had to estimate your score and pick your colleges before the official results came out. It was a stressful guessing game. As they walked, Tiffany and her shadow, Chloe, appeared again. Tiffany had changed into tight jeans and a trendy top. Ethan, exams are over. We should celebrate. A group of us are going to the karaoke bar downtown. You should come. Seriously? This girl doesn't know when to quit. Ethan didn't even slow down. Not interested. Tiffany's face dropped. I'm baying. Still no. Tiffany balled her fists. Ethan, what is your problem? Ethan stopped and looked at her. Tiffany, how many times do I have to say it? I don't like you. Not anymore. Can we just move on? I don't believe you, she cried. How can you just stop liking me? Yeah, Ethan, Chloe chimed in. You spent 3 years obsessed with her. You told everyone she was the only girl for you. It's only been 3 days since the rejection. You can't just switch it off. Chubb slapped his forehead. Wait, I get it now. Ethan, she's basically saying she's ready to be your girlfriend. You guys can go hold hands and do whatever. Should I start calling her sis now? Not a chance, Ethan muttered. Tiffany bit her lip. Chubb, stop. I'm just saying. We should go back to the way things were. Ethan just rolled his eyes. He knew exactly what she meant. She wanted her ATM and errand boy back. Even if she offered to be his girlfriend for real, he wouldn't take it. He'd seen her true colors. I'm going home, Ethan said, pulling Chubbs away. Wait, Ethan. I'll be waiting at the karaoke place at 5. I'll wait as long as it takes. Tiffany shouted after him. Ethan didn't look back. Dude, are we really leaving? Chubbs asked, looking back at Tiffany's pouty face. She looks kind of miserable. What if she actually waits all night? Then she'll have a lot of time to think about her life choices. Come on, I'm not a lapdog anymore. I'm thinking bigger. Bigger? Like what? Like being happy, having my family, not worrying about girls who use people. Deep, man. Real deep. As they reached the school gates, Ethan saw a familiar figure standing by a black sedan, smoking a cigarette and talking to another man. It was his father, David. Hey, David, a voice said. It's been a while. Your kid goes here too. Yeah, my boy Ethan. I heard your daughter is graduating today. Yeah, she's a good kid. Hey, I saw Elena at the hospital last week. She hasn't aged a day. Still has half the doctors in the building staring at her. Watch it, Marcus. I heard your wife is still the golden flower of the water department. The two men were talking like old friends, but there was a sharp, competitive edge to their voices. Ethan realized they must have been classmates. Wait, that man looked familiar. It clicked. The man talking to his dad was Marcus Vance, Maya's father. Marcus was the captain of the Major Crimes Unit. Ethan had seen him on the news a few times in his previous life, usually talking about some big bust. He hadn't realized his dad and the captain were old rivals. Ethan, over here. David waved him over. Come meet an old buddy of mine from high school. This is Mr. Vance. His daughter is in your grade. You guys might know each other. Ethan walked over, putting on a polite smile. Nice to meet you, sir. Marcus patted Ethan's shoulder. Good-looking kid. Doesn't look a bit like you, Dave. David scowled. Very funny. I'm just saying he takes after his mother. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Just then a familiar figure walked up. Dad? What are you doing here? Maya Vance stood there, looking at the group. She saw Ethan and her eyes narrowed slightly, but she immediately turned to David and gave him a polite, charming smile. Hello, Mr. Miller. Good to see you again. David was caught off guard. This was the girl from the motel room, the one he thought his son had hooked up with. He looked at Marcus, then back at Maya. If Marcus finds out my son was in a motel room with his daughter, he's going to arrest us both. Hello, Maya. Small world. I didn't realize you were Marcus's daughter. You're a very impressive young lady. Marcus, you're a lucky man. Marcus beamed. He was a notorious daughter dad. Nothing made him happier than people praising Maya. Maya looked at Ethan. How'd the last one go? Easy, Ethan said. Marcus blinked. Wait, you two know each other? We've been in the same classes since 7th grade, Dad, Maya said. Of course I know him. 6 years in the same classes. Marcus's smile faltered. He looked at Ethan with a new, suspicious intensity. He'd spent years protecting his daughter from punks, and here was his old rival's son, who had apparently been lurking in her vicinity for 6 years. David chimed in, grinning. Sounds like they're practically childhood sweethearts. Marcus's jaw tightened. Classmates is the word you're looking for, Dave. Classmates. Anyway, we should get going. You guys have a car, or are you taking the bus? David looked at his old beat-up truck. Truck's in the shop. We're going to catch the bus. Marcus gestured toward a brand-new Buick parked nearby. We just got the new model. The bus is a nightmare in this heat. Want a lift? Maya glanced at her dad. This was unusual. He was usually a private guy, but here he was showing off his new car to an old rival. David was about to decline, but Ethan stepped forward. That'd be great. Thanks, Mr. Vance. Ethan didn't feel like melting on a bus. Besides, he wanted to see more of this dynamic. As they piled into the car, a crowd of students watched from the gate. Among them were Tiffany and Chloe. Is that Ethan? Getting into a car with Maya Vance. Chloe asked, her jaw dropping. Are they actually together? Is that why he's being so mean to you? The rumor mill was already spinning at high speed. Did you see that? Miller just hopped in the Vance family car. They were sitting in the back together. They looked so close. Man, I guess he really did move on. From Tiffany to Maya? That's like trading a Honda for a Ferrari. Inside the car, the two dads were chatting away, but Ethan could tell Marcus was fishing for info. He kept checking the rearview mirror to see what Ethan and Maya were doing. Maya pulled out a notebook from her bag, opened it to a blank page, and wrote something in neat, elegant script. She nudged Ethan and showed him. Tiffany invited you to karaoke. That's a huge win for you. Why aren't you going? Ethan took the pen and wrote back. Why were you eavesdropping? You got a secret crush on me, or something? Maya's response was immediate. She reached over and pinched his thigh, hard. Ow, Ethan yelped. Marcus nearly swerved. Everything okay back there? Ethan gritted his teeth, glaring at Maya as he rubbed his leg. Yeah, just a mosquito. A really mean one. Marcus chuckled as he turned onto the main road. A mosquito? You can tell if it's mean. Oh yeah, Ethan said, looking Maya in the eye. This one's a real biter. Very aggressive. Did you catch it? Ethan watched Maya's smirk. Not yet. It's too fast. Maya looked out the window, hiding a smile. Then she leaned over and slapped his leg where she'd pinched it. There, I got it for you. Marcus watched them through the mirror. He wasn't an idiot. He was a veteran detective. He saw the way they were bickering, the friendly violence, the unspoken understanding. His heart sank. Dave's son. Of all the kids in the city, it had to be his. So, Ethan, Marcus said, trying to sound casual. What do you think of Maya? Maya's head snapped toward her dad. Ethan thought for a second. She's a lot smarter than a pig. Most of the time. Marcus's stomach did flip. That was the exact same thing his wife said about him whenever they had a playful argument. This wasn't just classmates' behavior. This was dangerous territory. What about his grades, Maya? Marcus asked. He's okay. He was ranked 78th in the last mock exams. Marcus winced. She knew his exact ranking. That was it. He was losing his daughter to a Miller. The car pulled up to the entrance of Greenwood Estates. David and Ethan got out, thanking Marcus for the ride. As they walked toward their building, David leaned in. Hey, you and Maya, you should go for it. She's a great girl, and her dad's a good man, even if he's a bit of a prick. I'd love to have her in the family. Dad, stop. Back at the apartment, Elena had laid out a feast. Ribs, seafood, steak, and even 2 cold beers on the table. Mom, you actually bought beer? Ethan asked, grinning. It's a celebration. You're done with high school, but you only get one glass. I don't need you losing any more brain cells. I get my brains from you, Mom. I'll be fine. Elena swatted his head. Don't you blame me for your GPA. She turned to her husband. How was the office? You actually work today? David nodded, looking serious. Actually, yeah. The VP, Mr. Sterling, is being transferred to the West Coast branch. There's an opening for the vice president position here in the regional office. I'm on the short list. Ethan froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. He had never heard about this promotion in the previous timeline. Was it because he hadn't been paying attention, or was this a new development? A promotion to VP. Ethan thought, if he's the frontrunner for a massive promotion, that makes the upcoming scandal even more convenient for someone else. Someone who wanted that job. Who else is on the short list? Ethan asked. David Miller took a long pull from his Budweiser and grinned. Why are you so interested in my work drama all of a sudden? You wouldn't know anyone at the office even if I told you. Ethan leaned forward. Come on, Dad. Tell us, and Mom and I can help you analyze the situation. If my brain isn't enough, surely you don't think a nurse of the year like Mom doesn't have the wits for it? Elena immediately shot David a proud, piercing look. Her expression made it very clear. If you even suggest I'm not smart enough, you're sleeping on the couch for a month. David knew better than to pick a fight he couldn't win. He sighed and laid out the short list. All right, fine. There's Joe Dawson and Steve Benson. Ethan froze. Those were the two men he'd seen at the hotel 2 days ago. And there's a woman, David added. Wendy King. But honestly, the short list is just talk. Everything really depends on what the regional manager decides. Even though the analysis didn't lead to any grand revelations, Ethan felt a deep sense of contentment. Having the whole family together to celebrate the end of his final exams felt like a luxury. In his previous life, he'd spent too many years eating meals in soul-crushing silence. This lively, warm atmosphere was exactly what he had been craving. In the afternoon, David headed back to the office. Since Elena had taken several days off to help Ethan through his exams, she had to head back to the hospital for a shift as well. Ethan told his dad he wanted to tag along to the office, claiming he wanted to play around on the computers there. In reality, he wanted to get a closer look at Brenda Reed. However, once they arrived at the Eastern Construction headquarters, Ethan learned that Brenda wasn't in. She was out handling logistics and supply runs, and no one knew when she'd be back. Ethan had a vivid memory of Brenda. She was 29, attractive in a sharp, somewhat aggressive way, and had a personality that most would describe as loud and provocative. Her wardrobe was consistently bold. She was married to a factory worker who made less than she did. In that household, Brenda was the undisputed boss. More importantly, Brenda had a brother named Sean Reed. He was a local thug, a real bottom feeder. In Ethan's previous life, this thug was the one who ended up sleeping with Tiffany Sterling. Back then, the two of them had teamed up to leave Ethan with scars that never truly healed. In his old life, Ethan had a literal scar on his back from a physical altercation involving them, but the psychological betrayal had been worse. Why on earth would he ever be Tiffany's loyal dog again? He told her he'd wait outside the karaoke bar until she showed up, but now, she could wait until the sun burned out for all he cared. With Brenda gone, Ethan sat bored at a desk in the corner of a storage room. The desktop monitor was caked in dust, tucked away behind shelves of building materials and miscellaneous junk. Unless someone walked all the way into the back of the room, they wouldn't even know he was there. David had told him he couldn't touch the important computers, so this old relic was the only one he was allowed to mess with. Ethan found a rag and gave the machine a quick wipe. He hit the power button and waited several long minutes for it to boot up. It was running an ancient Windows 95 system. In 1999, Windows 98 was already the standard, but this machine was clearly a forgotten relic. He saw a shortcut for Red Alert on the desktop. Someone must have installed it years ago. He double-clicked it. Bloop. Blue screen of death. Are you kidding me? Ethan muttered. He restarted the machine and checked the specs. A Pentium 133 with 16 megabytes of RAM and a 1 gigabyte hard drive. He tried to browse the files and bloop, another blue screen. He lost interest immediately and yanked the power cord. He sat there in the silence, staring into space. He was back in 1999. How was he going to make his fortune? He thought about it and realized that in this era, even a pig could fly if it stood in the right wind. Money was practically lying on the street. Mark Zuckerberg was still a kid in high school. Larry Page and Sergey Brin had just started Google in a garage a year ago. Jeff Bezos was just starting to turn Amazon into something more than a bookstore. It was the dawn of the internet age. Literally anything you started now could turn into a gold mine. There was the real estate boom, Apple's eventual comeback, Bitcoin way down the line. He could even write hit songs or scripts he remembered from the future. As Ethan's mind wandered through the possibilities, his head slumped onto the desk, and he drifted off to sleep. Sometime later, a strange sound jolted him awake. He stayed still, his head still down, listening intently. Slow down, a muffled voice whispered. You like that, don't you? A man's voice rasped. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. No way. He'd just come in here to play on a computer and fell asleep, only to stumble into something this scandalous. People were actually using this dusty storage room for a secret hookup. Wait, was the man his dad? No, impossible. David knew Ethan was in here. He wouldn't be stupid enough to bring a mistress into the same room as his son. Ethan was tucked into the farthest corner, shielded by stacks of boxes. He stood up as quietly as a cat, his curiosity getting the better of him. He crouched low, peering through a gap in the shelves. The sight that met his eyes made his jaw drop. This was insane. It wasn't David. The woman was Brenda Reed, and the man was Joe Dawson. They were having a full-blown affair right here in the office. A few moments later, the physical activity subsided. Brenda sounded annoyed. That's it? Really? Ethan almost burst out laughing. He bit his lip hard, shrinking back into the corner, barely daring to breathe. Joe chuckled. Look, things are busy at the site. I'm in a rush. But don't worry. I've already booked a room at the Crimson Inn, room 803. I'll make it up to you tonight. He paused, his voice turning serious. Anyway, have you thought about what we discussed? Brenda frowned, adjusting her clothes. Joe, I don't know. You want me to go after David Miller? I can play along to a point, but you want me to actually set him up? To leave evidence of him with me? That's a huge risk. If my husband finds out, he'll burn the house down. Let him burn it. I'll take care of you after that, Joe promised. Besides, I guarantee you, once David is out of the picture, his position as office manager is yours. Ethan felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He'd had a suspicion when he saw them together, but hearing it confirmed out of their own mouths was different. This was a conspiracy. He felt a sudden, violent urge to storm out and end them both right there. Salt, rage, regret. A torrential fire burned in Ethan's mind, spreading uncontrollably through his chest. He suddenly remembered Maya Vance's assessment of him. An idiot. She hadn't been wrong. In his previous life, Joe Dawson had been pulling the strings the whole time. He had orchestrated David Miller's downfall, which led to the death of Ethan's mother and the destruction of his family. The most pathetic part was that because Joe had later come around with a few acts of kindness, Ethan had been pathetically grateful to him. He had viewed his family's greatest enemy as a benefactor. It was laughable. Joe must have looked at him back then and mocked him for being a blind fool. And Ethan had spent over 20 years hating his father, blaming David for everything, even scattering his ashes in anger. I was the biggest moron on the planet, Ethan thought, his knuckles white. Perhaps God had seen enough of his stupidity and given him this second chance, just to open his eyes. You snakes. You liars. You murderers. In this life, I'm going to make sure you understand what true despair feels like. But for now, he stayed pinned in the corner. If they found out he was there and had heard their plot, they might decide to silence him for good. He didn't have Maya Vance's martial arts skills. He was just a teenage boy who hadn't even started working out yet. After a few minutes, Joe took a phone call and hurried out. Shortly after, Brenda smoothed her hair and left as well. Only then did Ethan let out a shaky breath, realizing his shirt was soaked with cold sweat. Tonight, the Crimson Inn, room 803. That was the key. Ethan remembered that in his previous life, 803 was exactly where his father's scandal had supposedly taken place. He finally understood Joe's endgame. A regular solicitation charge would mean a week in jail. But if it was framed as a workplace assault, if Brenda claimed David had threatened or forced her, that was a 3-year minimum sentence. With the VP appointment for the Eastern Construction branch looming, if David was caught in the act, his career would be over instantly. In his old life, Ethan wasn't sure if Joe had gotten the VP spot right away, but Joe had definitely become the regional manager a few years later. And Brenda? She had indeed taken David's job as office manager immediately after he was arrested. The rumor back then was that the company had given her the promotion as hush money to keep her from suing the firm over what David had supposedly done to her. David Miller had died in such a pathetic, framed disgrace. Not this time, Ethan thought. I'm going to give them a taste of their own medicine. Ethan slipped out of the storage room. He hesitated, wondering if he should tell his father, but he learned David had already stepped out for a site visit. Left with no choice, Ethan headed straight for the Crimson Inn. He planned to book a room, ideally right across from 803. He made his way to the 8th floor and located the room. Right across the hall was 804. Just as he turned to head back to the lobby to check in, the door to 804 swung open. A person stepped out. Ethan blinked, stunned. You again? The person standing there was Maya Vance. They had only parted ways after lunch, yet here she was. Destiny really has a sixth sense of humor, Ethan thought. Maya looked just as surprised, but Ethan's tone clearly rubbed her the wrong way. She narrowed her eyes. What's that supposed to mean? Am I in your way, or something? The sheer intensity of her gaze was intimidating. Ethan quickly waved his hands. No, I just meant. What a coincidence. I saw you at the mall. Now I see you here. It's like we're fated or something. Maya scoffed. You sound more like a stalker than a classmate. Just then, the elevator at the end of the hall chimed. Ethan jumped. He was terrified it might be Brenda or Joe arriving early. If they saw him here, they might scrap their plans for the night, ruining his chance to trap them. Acting on instinct, he grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her back into her room, slamming the door shut behind them. Maya gasped, her mouth opening to shout. Wah! Ethan clamped his hand over her mouth. Don't scream. I'll explain everything in a second. Thump. Before Ethan could finish his sentence, a sharp, searing pain exploded in his abdomen. The boxing queen of Oak Ridge High had once again proven that her title was well-earned. Ethan doubled over, clutching his stomach. God, what is wrong with you? What did I even do? Maya stood over him, looking unimpressed. Stop faking it. I only used about 30% of my strength. Right? You're Wonder Woman, and I'm just a punching bag. Ethan groaned inwardly. He heard footsteps in the hallway outside. He quickly made a shushing gesture and forced himself to stand up despite the pain. He peeked through the peephole. 2 men walked past. Neither of them were Joe or Brenda. He exhaled in relief, then looked at Maya and walked over to the bed, collapsing onto it face down. He needed a moment to recover. Hey, what are you actually doing here? She demanded. Ethan groaned into the pillow. I need you to do me a favor. Maya looked at Ethan with a look of pure disgust. What kind of favor? Let me use this room, Ethan said. Let you use my room? Maya couldn't follow his logic at all. Why would you need this room? Oh, wait. Don't tell me you're too broke to afford your own place, and you want to bring Tiffany Sterling here? You want to do that in my room? Are you insane? Ethan rolled his eyes. What are you even thinking? Do you really think a girl like Tiffany would ever come to a place like this with me? A girl like Tiffany? What's that supposed to mean? She's a player, Maya. She keeps guys on a bench like trophies. She isn't looking for a cheap hotel date. Maya studied him for a moment, then shrugged. I figured you couldn't get her anyway. But why do you want the room then? I have a use for it. It's important. Still no. If you do something illegal or stupid in here, I'm the one on the hook for it. Ethan thought about it and realized she had a point. He couldn't just take over her reservation. Fine, how about you check out, and then I'll check in immediately after? Maya curled her lip. Not a chance. Tell me exactly what you're up to. Ethan hesitated, then decided on a version of the truth. I got a tip. Someone is trying to frame my dad. They're using room 803 across the hall as their base. I'm here to get proof. Maya's eyes widened, a spark of excitement dancing in them. Are you serious? Dead serious. On my honor, Maya. This is incredibly important for my family. We've been classmates for 6 years. Our dads are old friends. You wouldn't just stand by and watch my family get destroyed, would you? Who's trying to frame him? You'll see soon enough. Maya searched his face with her dark eyes for a long time. Finally, she sighed. Fina, your dad called me pretty once, so I guess I owe him one. I'll help. Yes. Maya, you're a lifesaver. You're as kind as you are beautiful. The flower of Oak Ridge High hadn't heard that specific line of flattery before. It was a bit more modern than the usual 1999 compliments. Her eyes lit up for a second. Is that the kind of crap you usually say to Tiffany? Never. Outside the karaoke bar, Tiffany, Chloe, and another girl named Brooke were waiting. They hadn't even been there 3 minutes and were already losing their patience. Where is Ethan? Why isn't he here yet? No sense of time at all. He actually expects us to wait for him. So much for being a gentleman, Brooke said sharply. She wasn't a conventional beauty, but she had long legs and plenty of guys following her around. She wasn't used to waiting for anyone. Tiffany looked toward the street. Maybe you guys should head in. I'll wait a little longer. He might have been held up. Chloe looked at her. She had heard Ethan turn Tiffany down earlier, but Tiffany had insisted she'd wait until he came. It seemed like her best friend was actually starting to care about Ethan over the last few days. Normally, Tiffany would have left after 30 seconds. Fina, we'll give him 3 more minutes. If he's not here by then, forget him, Brooke said, sitting down on a nearby bench. 3 minutes passed in a flash. No Ethan. Brooke stood up, completely done. Tiffany, are you really going to keep waiting? You already rejected his confession. You're not actually regretting it, are you? Tiffany snapped back instantly. No, of course not. But we're classmates. He's done so much for me over the years. I'll just wait a tiny bit longer. You guys go ahead. Whatever. We're going in, Brooke said, and she and Chloe disappeared inside. Tiffany waited a while longer, her frustration mounting. Ever since she'd rejected Ethan's confession, the guy had acted like a different person. He was actually ignoring her. Usually, she could fix things with a few sweet words, but she'd given him 3 chances to make up, and he hadn't taken any of them. Fine, Ethan Miller. You want to play hard to get? See if I care. But Ethan wasn't coming today. Back at the hotel, Ethan and Maya had finally reached a truce. Once she knew his father's reputation was at stake, Maya had actually volunteered to stay and help. Ethan asked, weren't you in room 802 before? Why are you in 804 now? Maya made a face. The neighbors in 802 were too loud. I couldn't sleep, so I switched rooms in the middle of the night. Loud? Doing what? Playing poker. Maya bit her lip, a slight flush creeping on her cheeks. Just loud. Ethan saw her expression and realized exactly what she meant. Lucky girl, he thought. Why didn't she invite me? As two high school grads waiting in a quiet room, the conversation eventually turned to the future. What are you planning to major in? Maya asked. Depends. Honestly, anything works for me, Ethan replied. In his previous life, he'd chosen computer science. But now he already possessed the equivalent of a senior engineer's knowledge from the 2020s. What'd he do in a CS class? Teach it. No interest there. Maya wasn't happy with his answer. She started lecturing him. Choosing a major is the most important decision you'll make. It's more important than the school itself. Ethan, don't just pick something at random. Some majors are dead ends. You'll never find a job. Ethan smirked. Really? I heard the funeral services industry is booming. Mortuaries are dying for people. Maybe I'll try that. Maya's eyes went wide. A mortuary? Are you interested? I'm not that crazy. Ah, then I better get you to a doctor while there's still hope. Get out. Maya kicked Ethan's shin hard and stormed into the bathroom, slamming the door. She stared at herself in the mirror for a moment, then sat on the edge of the tub. The room outside was suddenly very quiet. What am I doing? She thought. He's right out there. This feels so weird. Meanwhile, Ethan was rubbing his shin, wincing in pain. After a while, he walked to the door and checked the peephole. Still quiet. No one in the hall. Is this really going to take all night? Ethan wondered. He sat back on the bed and noticed something near the pillow. It was a stocking, white, with a delicate pink trim. It looked quite expensive. He couldn't help himself. He picked it up to look at it. At that exact moment, the bathroom door opened. Maya stepped out and froze. Ethan realized how bad this looked. In a panic, he shoved the stocking into his pocket. In the end, Maya acted like she hadn't seen anything. She walked over, turned on the TV, and cranked the volume up. I don't want to watch TV, Ethan said. Well, I do, Maya replied, heading back toward the bathroom. You can't even see the screen from the toilet. Ethan grabbed the remote and turned it off. Maya's head popped back out immediately. Turn it back on. Why do you need the TV on for a bathroom break? I like the noise, okay? Turn it on. Fine. What a strange girl, Ethan thought. Needs a TV on, just to pee? What kind of weird habit is, oh? Ethan suddenly realized. She doesn't want me to hear anything. Huh. The result was an entire afternoon spent watching TV on low volume. As the sun began to set, Maya peered through the peephole for the 100th time. She looked back at Ethan, suspicious. Ethan, you aren't just making this up to get me to watch TV with you, are you? Ethan stared at her for 2 seconds. You can go home if you want. Maya bristled. Why should I? I paid for this room. I just extended it for another day, actually. I'll pay you back for the room. Do I look like I'm hurting for cash? Then what are you hurting for? A boyfriend? As they glared at each other, the sound of clicking high heels echoed in the hallway. Then, a sharp beep of an electronic key card. Ethan sprang into action. He shoved Maya aside and pressed his eye to the peephole. He saw a woman in a red top and a blue miniskirt. Her hair was styled in chestnut waves. It was her, Brenda Reed. But she was alone. Joe Dawson wasn't with her. Maya was curious too. She squeezed her head next to Ethan's, trying to see out the tiny hole. She only managed to catch a glimpse of a leg before Brenda stepped into 803 and closed the door. Is that the person? Maya whispered. Her face was less than 2 inches from Ethan's. He could see his own reflection in her eyes and feel her warm, sweet breath on his cheek. He nodded slowly. Just one? A woman? She asked softly. You didn't see her? Just a leg. Wait for it. They were standing incredibly close, their arms pressed together. Ethan's mind was racing, running through the dozen contingency plans he'd brainstormed that afternoon. Now, he just needed the timing to be right. Maya seemed to be in a daze, leaning against the door. Suddenly, she asked a random question. What do you even like about Tiffany Sterling? Ethan blinked. What do you like about her? You like being jerked around? You like being just another fish in her pond? He gave a self-deprecating smile. Go sit over there. I can handle this part. She didn't move. What are you going to do? Just be quiet. He couldn't tell her. I know exactly what's about to happen. I know what's going to happen for the next 20 years. Maya pouted, her cheeks puffing out. Every other guy in school would kill to have me talk to them. And you're telling me to be quiet? Jerk. You. Maya started to speak, but Ethan suddenly clamped his hand over her mouth, his eyes glued to the hall. Maya's eyes went wide. She went still, not making a sound. Ethan finally saw the target. Joe Dawson had arrived. Ethan's heart began to race. Outside, Joe stopped in front of 803. He paused, glancing back at the door to 804. Through the peephole, Ethan tensed up, thinking they'd been made, but he forced himself to stay calm. He's just paranoid. He's about to commit a crime. Knock, knock, knock. Joe tapped on the door. It opened almost immediately. Ethan saw that Brenda had already stripped down to a white towel. Seeing Joe, she smirked. Took you long enough. Joe grinned and reached out. Little firecracker. You stripped even faster. Just making it easy for you. Get in here. I have to be home by 9:30. Ah. They slipped inside, and the door clicked shut. Faint sounds of laughter and playful protest drifted through the wood. Ethan finally pulled his hand away from Maya's mouth. He noticed her face was flushed bright red. Her expression a mix of embarrassment and confusion. Even a pure high schooler like her could tell exactly what those two were up to. I thought you said they were plotting against your dad, Maya whispered. This looks like something else. Ethan pulled her away from the door and rushed to the bedside phone. He dialed 911, disguising his voice with a raspy, panicked tone. Hello, I want to report an assault. A woman is being forced. The Crimson Inn, room 803. Hurry before someone gets killed. Maya stared at him stunned. She hadn't expected this at all. You? How could you? Ethan ignored her. Time was everything. If Joe was a quick finisher, the window of opportunity would close. As soon as he hung up with the police, he dialed another number. This was the home number for Brenda Reed. He'd seen in the office directory earlier. This was his insurance policy. Hello, is this Sam Reed? Listen, I just saw your wife, Brenda. She's drunk. Some guy just dragged her into room 803 at the Crimson Inn. They were heading into the room, and she looked like she was barely dressed. You better get down here now if you don't want to be a cuckold. Remember, room 803. Ethan had Joe Dawson's home number too, but he decided not to use it yet. Maya looked stern. Using the hotel phone? I'm going to be the one taking the fall for this again. It's a hotel landline. At most, it shows the front desk number on their caller ID. It's fine. Maya sighed. Whatever. Reporting a crime is the duty of every good citizen. My dad taught me that. They did a quick sweep of the room and slipped out. As the elevator reached the lobby, they saw a squad of police officers charging toward the stairs. The local police station was less than half a mile from the Crimson Inn. They had arrived in record time. Ethan and Maya brushed past the officers at the elevator. Maya was visibly nervous. Even though her father was a detective, being personally involved in a sting was a first for her. Hey, I'm starving, Maya said once they were outside. You're buying me dinner. Wait, in a minute. I'll buy you a feast. Ethan led her to a sofa in the corner of the lobby and waited. A few minutes later, a man came sprinting through the front doors. Ethan recognized him immediately, Brenda's husband, Sam Reed. In his previous life, after the scandal, Sam had been anything but kind to Ethan's family. Ethan let out a tiny, satisfied smile. He turned to Maya. Okay, let's go eat. Bang, bang, bang. Police, open up. Open the door, or we're coming through. 1, 2, boom. After 2 heavy kicks, the door to 803 splintered open. 5 officers armed with batons and zip ties swarmed the room. They found Joe Dawson and Brenda Reed in the middle of the bed. Joe was having a particularly bad time. He tried to get creative with some rope, and Brenda's hands and feet were loosely tied to the 4 corners of the bed. It wasn't tight, but in the panic of the police raid, Joe couldn't untie them fast enough. 2 officers tackled Joe, treating him like a violent felon. They slammed him onto the floor, twisted his arms behind his back, and cinched the handcuffs tight, grinding his face into the carpet. Joe was pale with terror, shaking all over. Wait, what are you doing? I'm not a criminal. I'm not. Not a criminal? We caught you red-handed, you sick freak. You think we're blind? The lead officer spat. He threw a blanket over Brenda and started untying her. Brenda's mind was a complete blank. She couldn't find the words to speak. Joe tried to explain. Officer, you have it wrong. She's my wife. ID out. We'll see if she's your wife soon enough. She's my girlfriend. Really? Ask her. Joe pleaded. The lead officer looked at Brenda. He assumed she was too traumatized to speak and tried to comfort her. Don't be afraid. Just tell us the truth. Don't let this piece of trash intimidate you. Brenda nodded, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She finally found her voice. He actually... But before she could finish, a man burst into the room. It was Sam Reed. When Sam saw his wife tied to the bed, barely covered by a blanket, he went into a primal rage. He ignored the police and lunged at Joe on the floor. You son of a bitch. You piece of trash. Getting your hands on my wife. He began to rain blows down on Joe's head and ribs. Brenda watched her husband, the words she was about to say dying in her throat. Who says the quiet ones are easy to push around? When a man like Sam snapped, he was capable of anything. Seeing his fury, Brenda realized she couldn't possibly admit it was consensual. Not if she wanted to live. The officers, feeling a surge of sympathy for the husband, were remarkably slow to pull Sam away. 7:00 p.m. Ethan took Maya to a sushi bar. It was the same one Tiffany had wanted to go to. Maya looked at the sign. You're taking me here? This place is expensive. Too expensive? I thought so too. We passed a hot dog stand back there. You want that instead? Shut up. I've been with you all day, and I'm taking all the heat for your phone calls. You're paying up. Besides, if you don't spend it on me, you'll just waste it on Tiffany Sterling anyway. Ethan frowned. Why do you keep bringing her up? Because you like her. I really don't. Liars go to hell, Ethan. Ethan stared at her for a long time. If I'm a liar, then maybe you should consider being my mom, so I can at least say I take after someone. You want to die? The two teens laughed and shoved each other as they walked into the restaurant. Not far away, a black sedan was parked by the curb. Marcus Vance sat behind the wheel, watching the two figures disappear into the sushi bar. He looked deeply troubled. Ethan got home late that night. He found David sitting alone on the sofa, watching an old rerun of Friends and chuckling to himself. Right? July 99, the classic era, Ethan thought. Hey, Dad, just you? Where's Mom? At work. And watch it, kid. What did you just call me? I called you old man. It's a term of endearment. You're David. I'm Ethan. We're a winning pair. Ethan looked at his father, a wave of guilt washing over him. In his previous life, he'd misunderstood this man for half his life. He'd been so angry he hadn't even given him a proper burial. In this life, I'm gonna make it up to you. I'll take care of you until, well, let's just say I'll be a better son. Ethan went to the bathroom, filled a basin with warm water, and set it in front of David. David blinked. What's this? Helping my old man soak his feet. Don't look so shocked. Just enjoy it. David's lip twitched. Did the sun rise in the west today? You bringing me foot-soaking water. Ethan, tell me the truth. Did you get into trouble? You can tell me. Your mom isn't here. It'll be our secret. I didn't do anything. Just soak your feet. David knew his son's temperament. Random acts of kindness usually meant a hidden agenda. He looked at Ethan suspiciously. Wait, did you get Marcus Vance's daughter pregnant? Ethan nearly choked. He imagined Maya Vance's reaction to that. Her 30% punch would probably turn into a fatal strike. No, God no. We didn't even. It's not like that. Anyway, Dad, I have news. David looked at him, almost looking disappointed that it wasn't a scandal. Go on. I saw something at the office today, or well, near the office. Joe Dawson got arrested. Apparently, he was caught in room 803 at the Crimson Inn. They're saying he assaulted a woman. And the woman, she's one of your staff, Brenda Reed. Her husband showed up too, and it was a whole scene. David went silent for a long time. He stood up, looking like he wanted to head out. I should go check on things. Ethan grabbed his arm. Dad, go check on what? Joe is in police custody. It's a criminal case. If you go there now, you might get your head cracked by Brenda's husband. He's looking for someone to blame. David sighed. Brenda is on my team. If Joe did that to her, I have to do something. Ethan felt a pang of pity. That woman was literally planning to destroy you, Dad. You're not the regional manager, Ethan argued. Everyone is on edge. If you go, you're just a target. This affects the company's reputation. With a VP spot opening up, if this gets back to the corporate office, the regional manager should be the one to handle it. David looked at his son with genuine surprise. He patted Ethan's shoulder. So, that's actually a very mature way of looking at it. Maybe you were smart enough for college. He paused. I'll call Artie. Artie was the regional manager, Arthur Henderson. Dad, soak your feet first. I worked hard on this water. I can't use that. Why not? That's the basin your mother uses for her. Delicate areas. What? Ethan's face twisted. Is Mom that big? In the Vance household, Marcus Vance came home with a bag of takeout burgers. He saw his wife, Teresa, reading the newspaper with her glasses on, and Maya curled up with a book. The house was so quiet he would have thought it was empty if the lights weren't on. Teresa, Maya, look what I brought home. Marcus set the bag on the coffee table like it was a treasure chest. Teresa glanced at it and frowned. That greasy roadside trash? Marcus, how many times do I have to tell you? Your physical said your blood pressure is high. Marcus laughed. It's only a little high. It's fine. He looked at his daughter. Maya, come have a burger with your old man. Maya pat her stomach and shook her head. I'm good, Dad. You eat. She had just stuffed herself at the sushi bar to make sure Ethan got his money's worth. $128 for a buffet was a robbery. To get the value back, she'd eaten until she could barely move. Fine, all for me. Marcus sat on a small stool by the coffee table. Then, trying to sound casual, he asked, Maya, was there a big graduation dinner for your class today? Maya kept her eyes on her book. How many people showed up? A lot. Where did you guys go? Teresa kicked Marcus's shin. What is this? An interrogation. Marcus grinned. Just making conversation. I'm interested in my daughter's life. I want to feel involved, you know. It was a class dinner. Why do you need to be involved? Just eat and throw the trash out. The whole house smells like onions. All right. Marcus stopped asking, but the image of Maya and Ethan Miller at the sushi bar wouldn't leave his mind. He felt like a treasure he'd guarded for 18 years was about to be stolen, especially since the thief was David Miller's son. He looked at Maya and tried a different angle. Teresa, guess who I ran into today? David Miller's son. Ethan, I think. He's in Maya's class. Hey Maya, how long have you two been in the same class? Maya didn't want to talk, but she felt both their gazes on her. 6 years. Teresa adjusted her glasses. 6 years in the same class. David Miller's son? Isn't he the one who married Elena, the nurse from the city hospital? That's the one. Kid looks like his mother. Handsome boy. Oh, still carrying a torch for Nurse Miller. Are you? I remember how many times you accidentally went to that hospital just to have her give you a shot for a mosquito bite. Maya looked up, surprised at her father. Marcus gave an awkward laugh and went silent. But he knew his wife wasn't done. Sure enough, Teresa turned to Maya. How are his grades? Average, Maya said flatly. Top 70 or 80 in the grade. Oh, Teresa went back to her paper. Since the final exams were over, that kind of academic gap meant everything. In college, they would move in completely different circles. Ethan Miller would be a nobody, while Maya would be at a top-tier university. They'd never cross paths again, except maybe for a class reunion in a few years where he'd just be someone looking up at her from below. Life was funny that way. Teresa thought about the pretty nurse and smiled. Elena was just a nurse. Teresa, on the other hand, was a senior official in the water department. She went back to her news, satisfied. Maya, however, was thinking about Ethan's operations at the hotel. He hadn't told her everything, but the way he made those calls. He didn't act like a high school kid at all. His performance lately was confusing. The next day, SAT score estimation. To Ethan, the estimation was pointless. He'd even considered skipping college altogether. It felt like a waste of time. He could just hire a bunch of PhDs to work for him in a few years. But if he told Elena that, she'd probably chase him down 9 blocks with a giant syringe. Ethan, get up. Do you know what time it is? Don't you have to go estimate your scores today? You're going to be late. Ethan was still clinging to his blanket when Elena burst in, yanked it off him, and delivered a sharp smack to his backside. Even though he'd lived through this 3 times since his rebirth, he still couldn't get enough of it. This simple, loud, annoying happiness was exactly what he'd missed. Mom, boundaries. Ethan mumbled, eyes closed. Boundaries? I'll show you boundaries, you little brat. A moment later, a feather duster came down. Whack! Ow! Ethan yelped, springing out of bed. Soon, the house was filled with the sounds of a busy morning and the rhythmic nagging of a mother who did everything for her family. Hurry up, wash your face. Breakfast is on the table. David, stop reading that paper and help me cool down the oatmeal. Wear your clothes. Give me the ones from yesterday. 2 men in this house, and I swear I'm raising 3 children. The 2 Millers, senior and junior, didn't dare talk back. They followed orders perfectly. A few minutes later, as Ethan was brushing his teeth, he heard Elena's voice from the balcony. Wait, what is this? Ethan, why is there a stocking in your pocket? Who does this belong to? Ethan sprayed toothpaste foam all over the mirror. Yesterday at the hotel, he'd absent-mindedly picked up Maya's stocking and stuffed it in his pocket. Then, he'd completely forgotten about it. In the kitchen, David's ears perked up. He kept stirring his oatmeal, but his eyes narrowed. That isn't mine, Ethan said through a mouthful of foam. I know it's not yours. It's a woman's stocking, and it sure as hell isn't mine. Explain. Now. Ethan's hand shook. He caught his dad's eye. David looked terrified. It's Dad's. David froze. He nearly dropped the bowl. He met Elena's suspicious gaze, and then looked at Ethan with a look that promised a slow death. Elena, Ethan has a female classmate. Ethan saw the threat in his father's eyes. Wait, I remember. It's mine. I mean, it's a sample. Since exams are over, I was going to sell stockings over the summer to earn some tuition money. This is a sample. Don't you think it's high quality? You're going to college and you want to sell stockings on the street? Absolutely not. I won't have the neighbors laughing at us. Ethan bolted down his breakfast and ran out the door. Elena looked at David. Do you know whose stocking that was? David shook his head. No idea. No idea? Fine. You're doing the laundry for the rest of the month. David caved immediately. Actually, I think it might belong to one of Ethan's friends. At the Oak Ridge High bus stop, as soon as Ethan stepped off the bus, he saw Chubbs waving at him. Ethan, over here. The fat kid was holding 2 bags of breakfast and handed one to Ethan. What's this? Trying to get on my good side? Chubbs didn't miss a beat. He bowed. Anything for you, boss. Keep your breakfast. Usually, when you're this nice, you want something. Ethan hadn't eaten much at home, so he started eating anyway. Okay, Chubbs, out with it. Why were you waiting for me? Ethan, look at this. Chubbs pulled a sock out of his pocket and held it up. Ugh. Ethan jumped back. I'm eating. Why are you waving a stinky sock in my face? It's new. Never worn. Ethan looked closer. It was a woman's sock. His expression turned weird. Between his mother finding Maya's stocking and this, he was having a very leg-wear, focused morning. Okay, what's the plan? You giving these to girls? Chubbs turned a bit red. No, I want to sell them. My cousin works at a factory. These are seconds, items with tiny defects, but they look perfect to me. The regular ones sell for $3 a pair, but I can get these for 80 cents. If I buy enough, it's even cheaper. I'm thinking of selling them for $1.50. Ethan stared at him. Was this kid a mind reader? But then he remembered. In his previous life, Chubbs had mentioned this. But back then, Ethan was depressed over Tiffany's rejection and his family's crisis. He just handed Chubbs $300 to go away. A few days later, the Miller family collapsed. Chubbs had eventually brought over $1,000, saying it was Ethan's share of the profits. The business must have been decent. It's a good idea. You should do it, Ethan said. Ethan, I wanted to ask, do you want to be partners? Ethan shook his head. My mom already shut me down this morning. Chubbs blinked. What do you mean? Ethan didn't explain. Instead, he asked, you're short on cash, right? He knew Chubbs' situation. His mom was a nurse at the same hospital as Elena, making about $1,000 a month. His dad was in poor health and could only work odd jobs. Money was tight. Ethan always had plenty of allowance, but Chubbs probably didn't have $100 to his name. Chubbs turned bright red and nodded. Let's talk while we walk. Ethan finished his bagel. Look, I'll give you $1,000 to get started. But here's some advice. Selling on the street is $19.89. This is $19.99. Instead of stall, go to the small clothing boutiques, the ones near the markets, or the everything for $2 stores. Sell them to the owners at a small markup in bulk. Let them handle the retail. This was standard wholesale to retail logic from the future, but in 1999, it was a revelation for a high school kid. Chubb stopped dead in his tracks. He'd only ever thought about being a street vendor. This opened a whole new world. In the old timeline, Ethan remembered that Chubbs eventually went into the garment business. He'd built a factory, though he eventually lost everything when the market shifted. At least he'd been a boss for a while. Ethan, man, you're a genius. If this works, we're 50-50 partners. I'm the CEO, you're the president. Ethan looked at him. Why am I the president? Because the president sounds cooler. Forget it. Just sell the socks. I'll give you the $1,000 tonight. If you make money, pay me back. If you lose it, don't worry about it. $1,000 was all Ethan had left. He'd spent a lot of his allowance trying to impress Tiffany over the years. No way. 50-50. Partners for life. Hurry up and eat your breakfast. Inside the classroom, Ethan saw dozens of familiar faces. Some he remembered by their nicknames. Some were just blurry memories. Chubbs, where do I sit? Ethan asked, feeling a bit lost. He remembered being in the back because of his height, but the school rotated rows every few weeks. 20 years had erased the specific coordinates. Chubbs looked around. I don't know. It's score estimation day. Everyone is just sitting wherever. Fair enough. At the same time, in the second-to-last row, Tiffany and Chloe spotted him. Chloe nudged Tiffany. Look, Ethan's here. Tiffany gave a haughty sniff. He stood me up yesterday. Ignore him. I'm not saying a word to him all day. Chloe nodded, then asked, do you think he'll sit behind us? How should I know? But as Ethan walked toward their aisle, Tiffany's lips curled into a tiny smile. See? He's coming right back to me. Chloe whispered. Tiffany, didn't Logan give you flowers yesterday? Are you going with him? I mean, Logan isn't as hot as Ethan, and he's shorter. Apparently, after Ethan didn't show up, Tiffany had found another fish to pay for her night. I'm young, Tiffany said. I'm not looking for a serious boyfriend yet. Maybe in a few years. As Ethan got closer, Tiffany pretended not to notice him, staring intently at her fingernails. But Ethan just patted Chubbs on the shoulder. Find a spot, man. Ethan walked right past Tiffany and sat down in an empty seat near the front, right next to Maya Vance. He'd seen her the moment he walked in. For Ethan, the scores didn't matter. What mattered was what was happening to Joe Dawson and Brenda Reed. As the daughter of a police captain, Maya might have heard something. Plus, he'd used her room for the calls. He needed to make sure she wasn't in any trouble. Maya turned her head, her cold eyes meeting his. Ethan looked back. Honestly, even when she was being icy, she was incredibly beautiful. Maybe David Miller was right. Maybe he should marry her. But Chubbs, standing nearby, felt his legs go weak. He saw Maya's gaze and felt like he was being stared down by a beautiful, lethal predator. In a moment of sheer panic, he blurted out, Dad, you talk to Mom. I am gonna go. Dad, Mom, no way. Ethan and Maya? Since when? Chubbs hadn't spoken loudly, but the students sitting around Maya heard him perfectly. With exams over and hormones high, gossip was the only thing on anyone's mind. 7 or 8 students immediately leaned in, their eyes wide with hunger for scandal. And it wasn't exactly coming out of nowhere. Several people had seen Ethan and Maya leave in the same car at lunch the day before. Apparently, their fathers knew each other. The biggest proof was that usually, if anyone dared sit next to the boxing queen, she'd drive them away with a look that could kill. But now, Ethan was sitting right there, and she wasn't doing anything. Wait, was that a look they were sharing? Was that the legendary spark? A girl named Sarah, the class social chair and a notorious gossip, leaned over from the row behind them. Are you guys like secretly engaged? Like in those old movies where the parents promised you to each other? Ethan had always been on good terms with Sarah. He reached out and lightly flicked her forehead. Mind your business. Go away. Sarah grinned. So you're not denying it? Maya finally spoke. No. The boys in the room were muttering to each other. What is Ethan Miller doing? I thought he was obsessed with Tiffany Sterling. Now he's hitting on Maya Vance. He couldn't even get Tiffany. He thinks he can get Maya? Someone should check if he's high. Get him away from her. No guys are allowed within 3 feet of the goddess. The boys were seething with jealousy, looking at Ethan like he'd stolen their lunch money. Meanwhile, Tiffany, who was still pretending to look at her nails, realized the aisle was empty. She looked up and saw Ethan sitting next to Maya. They were sitting incredibly close. How could he? 3 days ago, he'd confessed his undying love to her. He'd said she was the only one. And now, 3 days later, he was hitting on another girl right in front of her. Trash. Scum. Tiffany's nails dug into her palms. She felt a tight, suffocating feeling in her chest. It felt like a pet she'd owned for years had been stolen. She cried for days when her dog ran away. This felt eerily similar. Actually, it was worse. Ethan hadn't been stolen. He'd intentionally walked away from her to chase someone else. Chloe whispered, Tiffany, it's not like you liked him anyway. You rejected him. Who cares who he hangs out with? Besides, Ethan and Maya? That's a joke. He's dreaming. Tiffany tried to calm down. You're right. Maya's parents are big shots. Even if Ethan's dad knows her dad, so what? They're not in the same league. Ethan will be lucky to get into a state school. Chloe continued. His English is terrible. Maya is definitely going Ivy League or top tier. They're worlds apart, and he's supposed to be in love with me. But this is still so annoying. Ethan ignored the drama behind him. He didn't actually have plans for Maya. She was a firecracker. Her dad was a cop who protected her like a hawk, and her mom was an elitist. Marrying her would mean a lifetime of being caught in a vice. He was a regressor. Why would he sign up for that? But her profile was incredibly pretty, like the girl from every teenage boy's dreams. Even with the mind of a 40-year-old, his young body was reacting to the proximity. Hey, Maya, Ethan whispered, leaning close to her ear. Maya turned, biting her lip. She didn't say anything, but her face flushed a soft pink. Ethan's breath was warm against her ear, making the fine hairs on her neck stand up. Ethan didn't notice. About yesterday, the 2 people caught at the hotel. Do you know what's happening with them? Maya shook her head. I don't know. Nothing. Your dad didn't say anything. He hasn't mentioned it. Okay. Ethan had assumed that since Joe Dawson's assault was a criminal matter, Marcus Vance would have been involved, especially since the 911 call came from Maya's room. But if she hadn't heard anything, he'd have to find out another way. Well, thanks anyway. I'll go sit in the back. Ethan stood up. Maya blinked, looking up at him in surprise. She thought he was going to stay. Ethan didn't see the look. He walked to the back and sat down next to Chubbs. The girl's lips puffed out in a tiny pout. Look at that. Maya kicked him out. He thought he had a chance. What a loser. The guys in the room started mocking him. Chloe watched Ethan walk to the back. See? He's crawling back to Chubbs. Tiffany sniffed. He got what he deserved, but he didn't even look at you when he walked by, Chloe noted. Tiffany felt another sharp pang in her chest. 10 minutes later, their teacher, Ms. Alice Harris, walked in. She was the English and homeroom teacher, around 30 years old, with long hair and a style that made her look more like 25. After a brief intro, she handed out the test keys. The score estimation began. Ethan had zero interest. He leaned his chin on his hand and watched Ms. Harris. His mind drifted. He remembered her future. She was going to be a superstar in the district, assistant principal, then a move into the city's education department, then eventually the chief of staff of the mayor. And then, eventually, she was going to end up in prison. Ethan, what's your estimate? Chubbs asked after they finished the math section. Ethan tapped the blank margins of his test paper. 100 or so. Chubbs blinked. 100 and what? I don't know. 100 something. He didn't really remember the specific points, just that his total score was around 590 plus. The afternoon went by in a blur as the other teachers came in to go over the science and history sections. By 3 p.m., they were finished. Chubbs looked at his total, 490. He looked miserable. A good state school might be out of reach. Ethan teased him. Maybe even community college is a stretch. Chubbs looked like he was going to cry. His mom was a tiger parent. If he didn't make it into a 4-year school, he was dead meat. I'm kidding, Ethan said. The test was harder this year. 490 isn't bad. You'll get in somewhere. Chubbs asked. And you? 500 or 600, Ethan said casually. Chubbs. As the session ended, everyone was given a handbook of colleges and a guide for filing their choices. They had 3 days to decide. Chubbs rushed out, probably to go see his cousin about the socks. Ethan planned to head to his dad's office. He couldn't rest until he knew for sure what was happening with Joe and Brenda. The incident in his old life was supposed to happen the day after tomorrow. He had to be sure no other traps were being set. As he walked out of the classroom, Chloe ran up to him. "Ethan, what did you estimate?" Ethan shook his head. "No idea." He knew Tiffany had sent her to ask. Why else would Chloe care? Sure enough, Chloe went back to Tiffany. He said he doesn't know. He probably bombed it and is too embarrassed to say. Typical. She paused. "Tiffany, I don't get it. You don't like him, but now that he's ignoring you, you're obsessed." Tiffany bit her lip. "I just want to know if he's playing hard to get. I need to test him. Just let him go." "No, I need to know." "Tiffany, I think you actually like him." Tiffany went quiet. I haven't decided yet." Ethan walked toward the school gate. He saw Tiffany sprint ahead of him, then duck behind a corner. As he walked past, she accidentally stumbled out and bumped into him. It was a very light bump, but Tiffany still fell. She landed on the pavement, legs splayed out. She looked up at him with watery, pathetic eyes. "Ow, you knocked me down. Aren't you going to help me up?" Ethan stared at her. "Really? This is the best you've got?" In the past 3 years, she'd done this a dozen times. Ethan realized he must have been truly blind to fall for such bad acting for so long. He didn't move. He turned to walk away. Suddenly, a slender, pale hand reached down and yanked Tiffany up from the ground. Blue and white uniform, long ponytail, perfect, icy features. Maya Vance. Where'd she come from? Ethan froze. Tiffany was stunned too, looking at the other girl. "Maya, you're hurting me." Maya's voice was cold. "Am I? I thought you were already in pain from your fake fall." "Oh, who's faking?" Tiffany's face went pale. She'd been caught, but she couldn't admit it. "I saw you," Maya said. Tiffany glared at her. After a moment, she snapped, "Ethan and I were just playing around. Can't you see that?" Maya gave a chilling smile. "Didn't you reject him? What's it to you?" The two girls, the two most famous beauties in school, were squaring off over Ethan. And Ethan, the cause of it all, was just standing there watching the show. Then, Maya suddenly kicked Ethan's leg. She held out her hand. "My stocking. Give it back." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Tiffany's eyes nearly popped out of her head. "What stocking? Why did Ethan have Maya's stocking?" Ethan felt a cold sweat. "What? What stocking?" "The one I was wearing yesterday," Maya said clearly. "I saw it in your pocket at the sushi bar. Don't need to go ask Mr. Miller to help me find it." Ethan saw Tiffany's face turn a sickly shade of green. He realized Maya was doing this on purpose. This was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Tiffany had asked, "What's it to you?" And Maya had countered with, "We ate sushi together, and he has my clothes." It destroyed Tiffany's position instantly. "Wait, why is Maya helping me?" Ethan wondered. "To get Tiffany off my back?" Ethan looked at the cool, aloof girl. "I washed it for you this morning. I'll bring it back when it's dry. And for the record, I didn't do anything weird with it." "What weird thing could you do with a stocking?" Ethan realized that in 1999, girls really were more innocent. Maya actually didn't get the joke. He laughed. "You'll understand when you're older. Did you ride your bike today?" "It's in a rack." "Good. You're giving me a ride to my dad's office." "You ride. I'll sit on the back." "Deal." They walked away together toward the bike racks. Tiffany stood frozen, feeling like she'd just been fed a bucket of salt. The information Maya had dropped was explosive. It had only been 4 days since Ethan confessed to her. How was this possible? Those two, they're disgusting. Chloe finally caught up. "Tiffany, what happened? Why do you look like that? Why is Ethan going to the bike racks with Maya?" Tiffany's voice trembled with rage. "From now on, I never want to hear those two names again." But as she spoke, a tear rolled down her cheek. Chloe said, "Hey, I just saw Logan. He said he'd take us for sushi." Tiffany crouched on the ground, burying her face in her knees. "No, tell him to go to hell." At the Oak Ridge High bike racks, Ethan took Maya's keys and found her bike, a pink Phoenix brand mountain bike. Maya stood by the side of the path. Even in a baggy school uniform, she was strikingly tall and graceful. The dappled sunlight filtered through the trees, making her look like a character from a movie. Boys passing by slowed down just to look at her. One guy was so distracted he rode his bike straight into a flower bed. Then, a guy in expensive-looking clothes and a leather backpack, Justin, a rich kid from another class, approached her. He was holding a camera. "Maya, since we're graduating, and we might not see each other for a long time, can I get a picture with you?" Maya's gaze turned icy. She knew Justin. He'd been sending her letters for months until her dad, Marcus, had picked him up in a squad car and made him sit in the back for 2 hours while they talked. He hadn't bothered her since. She was about to tell him to get lost, but then she glanced at Ethan and changed her mind. Sure. Justin was overjoyed. Awesome. He signaled his friend to come take the photo. But as Justin stepped up next to Maya, she reached out, grabbed Ethan by the arm, and pulled it between them. "Take it now." "Wait, who's this guy?" Justin was confused. "Who cares? Are you taking the picture or not?" Fine. Okay, on 3. Flash. Justin looked at the shot. He was annoyed that Ethan was in it. So he said, Maya, can we get one with just the two of us? No. Can you at least stand next to me? Maya thought about it and nodded. Justin grinned, thinking he'd just crop Ethan out later. But as the friend shouted 3, Maya suddenly gave Justin a shove, sending him stumbling out of the frame. Flash! The camera captured Maya leaning her head lightly against Ethan's shoulder. Okay, done. Make sure you bring the print when we file our college choices. Maya called out. She hopped onto the back of the bike. Let's go, Ethan. Who the hell was that guy? Justin fumed. Did I even make it into that second shot? His friend looked at the screen. Justin, you're not in the picture at all. As Ethan pedaled out of the school gates with the school's ice goddess on his back, he felt a surge of pride. This was every boy's dream. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit his waist. Maya had pinched him. Slow down. You trying to kill me? Ethan laughed. Don't worry. Pro. I'll take care of you. It felt good to be young. In his previous life, he'd become a shut-in, overweight, balding, and out of shape by 40. In this life, he was going to stay fit. He wasn't going down that road again. Since school was over, Maya didn't seem to care about the stairs. She sat on the back, arms wide, feeling the wind. Ethan, sing me a song. No. I helped you yesterday, and you stole my stocking. What do you want to hear? The way we were? Don't know it. Liar. You sang it for Tiffany at the talent show last month. You even played guitar. Ethan realized that he probably had done that in the original timeline, but he couldn't remember the lyrics to save his life. Tell you what, I'll sing something else. It's called Signs. He started singing a song he remembered from the future, a moody, catchy ballad that would become a massive hit in the 2010s. Wind in the sand, flowers in the rain. Like the moon in the water, a ghost in the grain. Under the bridge, in the heat of the night. Someone is singing, waiting for the light. Ethan sang as he pedaled, and Maya went quiet behind him. When he finished, she whispered, That was beautiful. Sing it again. He ended up singing it all the way to the eastern construction gates. Okay, we're here. My throat is on fire, Ethan said, putting a foot down. That was really good, Maya said, her eyes soft. Whose song is that? I want to buy the tape. You can't. Why not? It's not out yet. Maya looked at him, surprised. Wait, did you write that? Ethan hesitated. Am I really going to be that guy? He shrugged. I guess. I had a dream once, and the song was just playing in the background. I just remembered it. You don't believe me? Maya looked at him and changed the subject. What was your estimate, really? Ethan smiled. Secret. Maya got onto the bike seat. I'm putting Chicago down for my first choice. If you end up there too, maybe I'll look out for you. And thanks for the song. She pedaled away, humming the melody to herself. Ethan walked into the Eastern Construction office. Almost immediately, he heard the sound of shouting. He recognized his father's voice. Ethan's heart hammered. He ran toward the noise. In the lobby, it was chaos. 2 groups were shouting and pushing each other. One young guy was particularly aggressive, screaming curses and grabbing a woman by her hair. You bitch. What's your deal with Dawson? You're his little pet, aren't you? He's done with you. So he's using you to find other women? You helped him go after my sister? I'll kill you. Smack. Smack. The young man delivered 2 heavy slaps to the woman's face. She screamed and tried to claw at him. David Miller and a few others were trying to break it up. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he recognized the young man. It was Sean Reed, Brenda's brother. In his previous life, this was the guy Tiffany had ended up with. Ethan had been stabbed trying to save Tiffany from him. But seeing the scene now, Ethan was delighted. He'd been worried Joe might pay off Brenda's family to keep them quiet. If Brenda retracted her story, the assault charge would disappear. But with Sean here causing a scene and looking for blood, that was a massive help. And the woman he was hitting? Ethan realized it wasn't Brenda. It was Wendy King, the other VP candidate. Why was she involved? David saw Ethan. Ethan, what are you doing here? Get to my office. It's a mess out here. Ethan acted confused. Dad, what's going on? Is this guy trying to rob the place? The corporate reps are coming today, right? This is going to look terrible for the branch.